is the McMurtry Spéirling, and if you're unaware of what it's capable of, take a look at this.
3.51 seconds over the first 100 metres. 0.24 intermediate 2. It's a new record surely. 39.008. 39.08. He is the fastest ever man on the Sunday. He's the fastest ever man whatever day of the week. Yeah.
This thing, less of a car, more of a land-based rocket. And it sounds like one too. But the Spéirling story has moved on, because this is the new McMurtry Spéirling Pure. Apparently it's even faster and even friendlier to drive. It was revealed at the 2023 Goodwood Festival of Speed, and it's the one that you can actually buy. They're only going to build around 100 of these, costing just under £1 million each. First deliveries in 2025. Today what we're going to do is detail the differences between the original car and this one, talk about the upgrades, and basically deep dive into what makes this electric track car totally unique. Let's start with the company itself. Founded in 2016 by Sir David McMurtry, a billionaire businessman who wanted to build, and I quote, the world's greatest small and lightweight cars for road and track. Sir David then headhunted a load of XF1, aerospace and automotive engineers to turn his vision into a reality, based them out of his futuristic Swinhay house in the Cotswolds, and let the magic unfold. So the first thing to say is that the basics are carried over. This is still an electric car, it's still a single-seater, it still has a dual fan system underneath the car and a skirt that drops down to sucker it onto the tarmac. It still weighs under 1,000 kilograms but has 1,000 horsepower. It's still got 2 electric motors and is rear-wheel drive, and it will still do 0 to 60 in under 1.5 seconds and a quarter mile in under 8. That's because unlike a traditional track car or racing car where you need air rushing over the bodywork and under the car to produce the downforce, here you have it all from the moment you flick the fans on, from a standstill. So in theory, you could park it on the scene. You might remember a Top Gear film from 2007 where Richard Hammond attempts to drive a Renault F1 car around Silverstone and can't drive quick enough to get the downforce to work, so it looks like he's driving on ice. Yeah, that's not going to be a problem here, but it means the Spéirling's main grip advantage comes in the low and medium speed corners, sub 150 miles an hour, so it's a new type of driving experience to master, something we'll be talking to Max Chilton about a little later on. Okay, so the really big changes. The first one is top speed. It's gone from 150 miles an hour all the way to 190 miles an hour, which is quite the hike. And then we get to downforce. So the original car had 2,000 kilograms of downforce available from a standstill, of course. The exact figure for this car is yet to be defined. They're still fiddling with it, still optimizing it to work perfectly with this new set of tyres. The tyres are another big change. We've gone from 19-inch wheels to 18-inch wheels, and from bespoke tyres to off-the-shelf Michelin Pilot Sport GT slicks, which are a massive 60mm wider at the front and the back. So we've now got 270mm wide tyres at the front and 300mm at the rear. That means overall width of the car goes up from 1.5 metres to 1.58, and you get those more muscular wheel arches. We very much approve. And then we get to the battery. So it's the same size in both cars, 60 kilowatt hours, but in this prototype there is 6,000 of these next gen Molicel lithium ion cells. What that means is that they heat up 20% less under full power. They can charge 30% quicker, and because you've got a more efficient new inverter, motor and gearbox, in theory this thing should be able to do 10 laps of the Silverstone National Circuit at lap record pace before you need to come back into the pits and charge up again. When you do, that will take 20 minutes, but that includes the time it takes to cool the cells back down again, so you've got maximum performance for your next stint. Detailed weight savings on the Pure are pretty extensive too. The new fan system weighs around 14% less, the battery casing 15.5% less, the chassis 4%, wiring loom 35%, power steering system 20%. You get the idea. Now apparently you can be 6'7", which I'm not, and 150 kilograms, which luckily I'm not either, and still fit inside this car. Seems a little bit optimistic to me, but hey ho, let's give it a go. I can figure out how the handle works. Now apparently I put my bum on the wheel arch, swing my legs in, stick them into the footwell and drop in with my dignity intact. Ah, Max.
Hello mate, how are you?
Yeah, good thanks. Just the man I was looking for. This seating position is bonkers. My ankles are somewhere up near my ears. And I didn't realise that it's basically left foot braking or nothing.
Yeah.
You've got a pedal for each foot.
It's super simple to drive. It looks like an absolute animal, but it is really basic. There's no gears to change. There's 2 pedals, accelerator and stop, and that's all there is to it.
I've noticed this thing that's intruding, and I thought it was a handy little shelf to put your phone on, but actually it's probably more serious than
Your
that.
phone will very quickly disappear behind you with the acceleration this thing's got. But yeah, it's built to LMP1 safety standards, so that's got the same head restraints you would have in an LMP1 car. You've got one on your right-hand side and one up here on the left-hand side. You've also got it behind your head.
Yeah.
6-point harness. And a fire extinguisher, so they're all your safety elements, but it's also a beautifully made tub, which I feel really safe and confident to push the car in.
Yeah, and what's going on in front of me then? It looks pretty simple. I mean, I'm assuming this button down here with the McMurtry logo, that's your start button.
That's the go, and that is the one amazing thing about this car. The performance it has outrivals every other supercar I know, and it's a push button start, off you go, and it will do. From the moment you push that button, within a few seconds, you can be doing 0 to 60 in 1.5 seconds on stone cold tyres. That's how absolutely ludicrous this car is.
So I assume you need to know what these toggles, these buttons do down here. So
yeah, so you've got TC there, which is the traction control. You've got 8 different settings all the way to off. But that's another crazy thing with this car. The way the fan system works, it puts over 2 tons of force through the tyres. So even when you do 1,000 horsepower, all released at once on a 0 to 60 launch on stone cold tyres, the traction control doesn't even kick in.
Why is it there then?
In the rain, if you're really loading the car up out of certain corners, you'll want it. But honestly, the traction control on this car is hardly ever used. But people that are really honed in on their track days will want to play around with it. So it's a cool feature to have.
Cool. Fan?
Fan is that's the holy grail toggle right in the middle, really obvious to control. You've got the off, which is just for sort of maybe sighting laps, getting to know the track, and then you can from there you just got multiple different settings all the way up to 23,000 RPM, and at that point you have ridiculous performance. Like I was lucky enough to race in Formula 1, and it outdoes that in most corners that I know.
And my favourite button, power.
Power. We all like power. So where you're currently there, you're sat in about 400 horsepower, and you can turn it up in increments all the way up to 1,000 horsepower. With literally the switch of a toggle. Yeah. The noise that this makes at, 23,000 RPM with the fans are spooled up? It literally is a party piece. It sounds like a jet fighter coming from behind or flying overhead, because it is really a unique sound. But I love the noise. It really sort of it inspires you to push, because you can hear the noise. You think this has got a lot of power. This has got clearly a lot of downforce, and allows you to really utilise the amazing technology that the McMurtry Automotive team have come up with. And it honestly is an absolute pleasure to drive on track. I can't wait for you to have the experience of driving it.
Neither can I. Unfortunately, we're not going to be driving it today, but fingers crossed sometime in the near future. Now, speaking of the Goodwood record, you've written it here on the steering wheel, just so nobody forgets the time. 39.08 seconds, the Goodwood hill climb record. I'm going to climb out for this bit because I've got another big question. I've never done this before.
I'll take the wheel off for you.
Let's give it a wiggle. Right, now, I've been told to get my right foot under my right bum cheek.
And then just stand up, mind your shoulder on the way up.
Stand up without getting cramp. Bum on the bodywork.
Easy peasy. It gets easier every time you do it.
That was genuinely the first time I've done it. Now, Max, I know you've already done this in detail for us on the Top Gear Magazine podcast, but you've got to take us through that record run at Goodwood, blow for blow. I want to know everything, when you're queuing up, how sweaty your palms were, getting off the line, firing up the fans, everything.
Yeah, so it was over a year and a half ago now, and I've got a bad memory, but I remember it like it was yesterday. It was when it was felt so much pressure. The team announced like a week before that we were going to break the record. And I said, no, please, let's just say we're going to go for the win, and if we get the record, that's the icing on the cake. But no, they announced we're going to get the record. So there was an almighty bit of pressure. So I was very nervous going down. You do the typical spin turn at the end where everyone sort of does a little donouts. Then you have to let everyone go. I was the last car to go. So you get like, I don't know, 150 metres before the sort of yard of bricks. So I took the traction control off. I don't have the fans on at this point. So with the fans off and no traction control and 1,000 horsepower, it makes a lot of smoke. So I did a couple of hits of the throttle, got the tyres slightly warmed up, minimal, but helps every little. We were trying to break the record, so I needed everything. Then I came to the start line. The marshals sort of get you right on the mark, and then the fun happens. I put it into gear, into drive, foot on the brake, full throttle, and then I turn the fans up to 23,000, and it takes a few seconds for the car to visibly suck down.
Do you feel it? Do you feel it hunker
The
down?
car starts to shake, make a lot of noise, and then you can see the sort of eye line just slightly drop, which means you're now ready to go. And once, as we said earlier, those lights on the wheel have disappeared, you've got full downforce. There's no like sort of green light at Goodwood, it's just go when you're ready. So I thought, right, take a breath. As soon as I released that brake, I was doing 0 to 60 in under 1.5 seconds. And at Goodwood, with hay bales and trees either side, that avenue gets very narrow, and you've got people right at the end drinking champagne. So turn one comes at you very quickly. You forget which tree's your braking point, but I got it right on the Sunday, sort of brake, and this thing stops so quickly. It's got so much grip. You're only braking for less than a second before you're turning in. And Goodwood is a very narrow road, and it's also got a crest. With our car, you sort of don't want to go on the grass. You want to keep it on the black stuff. So I sort of left a little bit of tolerance. So I knew that I always had all the grip I needed, and I just committed. I turned into turn 2 with a slight lift of the throttle, straight back to full power, and then we were on the limiter at 150 miles an hour, which our hill climb car was.
That's the bit in the film, actually, where you can hear the crowd like gasping. As you come around that turn 1 and you get on it, up that straight, there's just, as you go past.
By the time we passed the house, we're doing 150 miles an hour on the limiter, and I was on the limiter for over 4 seconds. And as you mentioned about the crowds gasping, even this year, some of my favourite videos from the whole weekend are the crowd reactions. No one's video sees me for more than a second and a half before I've disappeared. And then there's this gasp, and then there's this like a round of applause. So like, it's amazing moments at Goodwood with just the fans sort of recording it.
This thing can do 190.
Yeah.
Now, so imagine.
Yeah, if we get the invite back, this thing can definitely go quicker.
Wow.
So as we say, we come past the house, you've got a slight kink left, but it's completely blind into Molecombe. It's sort of kinks left, but you're braking not until you turn right, but you can't see the corner. So it's all a bit like, I call it squeaky bum time. And you just got to nail the brakes as much as you can. Again, this car stops so quickly, but you can't see the road. So I'm trying to sort of hug the road on the apex as much as I can. And then out of Molecombe, just smack the throttle. The thing's got so much acceleration and performance. Again, it's a bit like the start line to turn 1. Before you know it, you're facing the flint wall, and flint wall comes at you very quickly, and you can't really see anything. At Goodwood, it was a really sunny day. So then under the trees and the flint wall with the shadows, it's just a wall of darkness. So you just use the hay bale as your turning point. And I probably went a bit too fast, but I got away with it. And the flint wall was just flying past before I knew it.
Well, probably helps that there's only that one's only 1.5 meters wide. Yeah. So you've got more room than some of the big old,
Yeah, that's one of our real luxuries with this car. It's obviously the footprint of a 1960s Formula One car. So when we're on tracks like Silverstone, you could have 6 of these wide because it just gives you so much room. So at Goodwood, that's again another bonus for us. We didn't design the car to be a hill climb car, but having a small car just gives you that little bit more room to play with. Yeah. And then from the flint wall, you've only got 2 corners to go. You've got a right-hander, which is quite tight. Again, hay bales either side. And then you come into the final corner, which is the fastest corner on the track. I turned in a little bit early, and if you actually watch the video, I clipped the hay bale with the front left, had a little bit of a wobble and lift out, which probably cost us. It would have been a 38 something. But yeah, we broke the 22-year record. There was cheers, and yeah, it was just one of the best days of my life. And it was someone's driveway in West Sussex.
Did you know you had broken it? Is there a clock on the finish line or anything? Did you feel it in your bones? You're a racing driver, right? You've got a stopwatch built into your bum.
Yeah, absolutely. I have got. We do have an inner sort of time, and I knew it was good enough to have broken the record. I didn't know it was quicker than the run that I'd done in the morning. Yeah. But obviously at Goodwood, it has to be done in the Sunday afternoon shootout for it to be the official record. But I ended up going another 10th faster. But I had to wait until I'd gone all the way right to the top of the hill and I could see it on the big screen and then did some burnouts, got a round of applause, and really was an amazing moment for myself and the McMurtry team.
It was incredible. From our perspective, rarely does a story really sort of shatter outside the kind of automotive sphere. And I was sort of going for lunch with my parents who aren't really into their cars. And, did you see that thing going up the hill at Goodwood? I was like, how do you know about that? It went completely viral. It as you say, it launched this company onto the world stage, and it was was a hell of a drive, and I can't believe that this thing is actually going to be quicker and even easier to drive and easier to exploit, and I just can't wait to actually have a go myself. Just make sure you're there, because I'm going to need some tips.
I will make sure you're there. And talking of moments, we're actually lucky enough, we got the Top Gear Moment of the Year last year, in 2022 for that moment up the hill climb. So that was an amazing thing to get the award from Chris. And yeah, hopefully we'll get another cool moment in this car, because this has got 50% more tyre on the road, so it's got a lot more mechanical grip. So this is another step up again.
Incredible stuff. Thanks for your time, mate.
Thank you.